You are listening to Blues on the Hill. It's the Oz Blues Hour. I have my second guest in the studio. He is doing a Leadbelly tribute show. He did a Robert Johnson tribute show earlier this year and has now taken on Leadbelly. His name is Boadz, and Boadz, welcome to Blues on the Hill.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, as I said, you took on Robert Johnson earlier this year and now taking on Leadbelly. You're taking on some legends here.
Yeah, well, my method of motivating myself to practice for years now has always been book a gig you're not prepared for, then rise to the occasion. And the more promotion I do for the gig, the more pressure I put on myself, the more thorough I become with my preparation, and the more I kind of get out of the material. So an artist like Robert Johnson or Leadbelly, but particularly Robert Johnson, things like his time feel and just approach to, drifting between chords and lead and the various little tricks he'd use. There's a lot there that, first of all, just you can't read off a page, can't be written down. Really the only way to absorb that language is to learn it by ear and just transcribe it note for note, play along with the recordings. I used to work as a jazz musician, and learning single note solos is in some ways quite a lot easier because you're obviously dealing with one note at a time. But once you've transcribed a solo, I learnt that the most you can get out of it is your articulation and dynamics. So you get that by just playing along with the recording over and over again. So I just applied the same thing to the Robert Johnson tunes, literally up until the day of the gig, playing along with the recordings, trying to do a semi-hilarious just impression. Wasn't trying to put my own influence on it or anything, just try and get exactly the same sound as Robert Johnson. And then on the night of the gig, I would just forget about all that and just play all the songs. And so they came out, some tunes were more faithful than others. Some of them I was able to mess around with a little bit more and play some solos and things like that. But for the most part, I was super happy with what I got out of doing that gig. So for me, plus I was very pleased to discover that the community, there's obviously a fan base for that kind of music where I'm living, which is the northern suburbs of Melbourne, bar 303 on High Street in Northcote. And there was lots of people there. Probably the funnest gig I've done, just a silent room full of people that really dug that music and just wanted to see it. So at that moment I was very happy I'd done the preparation, because I don't think I would have got away with doing like Boadz plays Robert Johnson. They wanted to hear it as close to the source material as they could get it. So that's how I like doing it, and I'm going to do the same thing with Leadbelly. So I've been playing along. I've still got some work to do, but I've got plenty of tunes to do, and just going to, like I said, do some of them very faithfully, note for note, exactly how he would, as close as I can, and then some of them I'm going to use as sort of a launching pad for my own improvisation and interpretation, a few modern things, and it's going to be really fun. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Leadbelly. William Huddy Ledbetter?
Huddy.
Huddy.
Yeah, I know that because if you listen to the song Fannin Street, on the third or fourth verse, he says, "If anyone should ask you who wrote this song, tell them Huddy Ledbetter done been here and gone." So Leadbelly is basically just the typical, the greatest, but what you think of when you think the word songster. He just knew, from all accounts, hundreds and hundreds of tunes. He'd play blues, folk, country, polkas. He played the accordion as well. He brought out a children's album at one point. Many people know the legend of him being given 2 separate pardons by 2 separate governors for 2 separate prison sentences, both for some violent crime. The second one is arguable that he didn't actually commit, it was in self-defense or something. But it's one of those things that is similar to Robert Johnson. One of the things that draws me and other people to it is that it's shrouded in mystery and sometimes hard to separate myth and fact from fiction. But he certainly knew a lot of tunes. And when I first started listening to this music, that's what really attracted me to Leadbelly kind of first. So it was a few years ago. I was staying on a friend's couch, just broke, not in a good place. All of a sudden, he shows me Robert Johnson, some Delta Blues, and I was like, oh, this is the soundtrack to being bummed out. How about that? Someone wrote the music for it. So I went out and bought the complete Robert Johnson. I got a Leadbelly Greatest Hits, Son House, got some Bessie Smith, which is pretty different, but Blind Lemon, a bunch of this sort of stuff. And to the uninitiated, I think being honest, a lot of Delta blues music can sound pretty similar if you haven't listened to a lot of it before. But Leadbelly, I noticed straight away the diversity in his repertoire was evident straight away. He just has so many different kinds of tunes, and that massive, powerful voice. Some tunes, the guitar parts couldn't be simpler. And then there's things like Gallows Pole and Fannin Street where he's just a monster guitar player as well. So, real hard dude to pin down.
Now, you've got your guitar there.
I do.
Which one have you chosen to do for us?
I was thinking I might play a song that I wasn't aware of until I got the Smithsonian Folkways collection, as you mentioned earlier. And this is one I hadn't heard on my greatest hits of Leadbelly, so it might not be one people are as familiar with, but it sort of leapt out at me straight away as just a really fun, jammy tune. It's called Diggin' My Potatoes. Probably my favourite euphemism I've ever heard for "you're sleeping with my woman." Somebody's digging my potatoes, trampling on my vine. But I have a special feeling resting on my mind. Well, I tipped up to my window, thought I heard them all. I don't wanna have somebody say, "Oh, you're gone, I've got to go," 'cause you're digging my potatoes, trampling on my vine. Well, I have a special feeling resting on my mind. Well, I wanna tell you, Nick, leave my girl alone. Ain't nothing in the street she can't find at home. But you're digging my potatoes, trampling on my vine. Well, I have a special plan resting on my mind. Resting. On green, my potato red. Thought you were my friend till I caught you in my bed. Boy, you're digging my potatoes, trampling on my vine. Well, I have a special plan resting on my mind. Well, you're digging my potatoes, trampling on my vine. Special feeling resting on my mind, resting on my mind, resting on my mind, resting on my mind.
Now I want to bring Isaiah back in here. Go for it.
That's all right. One of Leadbelly's most well-known ones. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I get you in my dreams. Sometimes I live in the country. Sometimes I live in town. Sometimes I have the great notion jumping into the river and drown. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. I get in my dreams.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful.